Welcome back to another edition of the B4evaKool podcast. My name is Rex45. This afternoon, we have Paul Duval with us, who's a longtime racer I've known for a little while now. Probably came across you probably when I first got up there, but we probably talked in the last 4 or 5 years. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, hi, how you doing?
Uh, I'm doing pretty good. Can't complain as much. I got my truck back as we were talking off here, so it's at
Yeah.
least it's nice to know I can go racing again. So this last weekend I was at Roebling, and I had to rent a truck to get to Roebling and all that fun stuff. So you know how that goes, and we'll talk more as the show goes on. But yeah, let's talk about how you got into motorcycle riding, and we'll get to talking about racing and racing at a very high level. I won't even bring up your age because I think we might be close in age, but you're definitely riding at a very high level. So how long you been riding and how you get into riding? You know how it starts for you.
Yeah, I mean, I don't come from a family of motorcycle people. I was kind of a freak as a kid, and I was just obsessed with maybe Evil Knievel and like the Wide World of Sports Super Bikers show on Sundays.
Yeah, yeah.
Like some flat track they used to show on that too, and so I was just obsessed, and I pestered my parents to get me a motorcycle, and they said no. So I was like, well, I'm getting a job and I'm gonna buy my own bike. And so at 11 years old, I did. I got a paper route, saved all my quarters, and I bought a motorcycle.
Oh wow, wow! That's pretty. Like you, I asked my mom to buy me a dirt bike, and she was definitely like, no. Um, I did
Yeah.
also get a job as a paper route, but it took me years to get into the bike situation. But
Yeah.
wow. So now, what did your parents think of you when you said, "Hey, I got the money to buy the bike. Can I go buy it?" Or did you just show up with the bike?
Yeah, no, my dad made a deal. He said it's got to be street legal so I can take it to work sometimes. So I bought a dual sport, like an 80cc dual sport. They don't even make anymore.
Right,
And
right.
yeah, he would ride it to work, and then I would rip it in the afternoons when he got home.
So your dad you allowed your dad to get a bike. That's
Yeah,
usually still the way around, but wow, huh?
yeah,
Um
yeah.
and
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 once I had it, they were like very liberal with it. Me, like I could ride it anywhere. I rode it. I did my paper route on it. I did all this, just rode around town on it at 11 years old. It was a different time, but
right, right.
it
And
was a thing everywhere.
what town did you grow up in, and what was that like even for people at 6 in the morning? I don't know how early you were getting up, but was the bike loud? Were you waking up folks?
The bike was silent. I mean, when I was riding dirt, all you could hear was the chain slapping. The bike made no noise at
Okay.
all. But so that wasn't an issue. My neighbors were like pretty tolerant of it, and I grew up in South Hadley, Massachusetts, which is actually I think where John Grush grew up as well. So we kind of know a lot of the same people from our childhoods.
Right.
He's a little bit older than me, but uh, yeah, and it was rural at the time, and it was farmland, and I would ride across town and go into the mountains and do some dirt riding, and then ride home, that kind of stuff.
So you were like the cool kid on the block, and you know, um, did you get other people into riding as well at that time?
Yeah, as my best friend got a bike, and that was it, man. We just spent all our time exploring on the bikes, right into like till we were 16 or something. We rode those same 80cc bikes. We just never really had the money to upgrade, and we just rode small bikes. And I think that helped a lot in learning because I was always kind of riding a tiny bike, trying to keep up with kids who finally bought like big, fast dirt bikes. And so I was in the back just hanging on, ripping.
Wow. And when you were learning, I mean, when you're younger, we're all fearless, so we don't think like nowadays. But like, was it did you crash a lot? Did you were you found it more natural to ride in or?
Oh yeah, no, we crashed all the time. It was Evil Knievel was our inspiration. So the first thing we did was build a jump and jump over each other, like laying down on the ground.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It was like Evil Knievel style. Um, and yeah, we crashed a lot. And the other thing though was, and I'm not sure how. I think from Wide World of Sports, we had some awareness of flat track. I had a small backyard and we just would do laps and it turned into a little flat track in the backyard
Right.
because when you have limited space, it's just what happens.
Oh yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
yeah, so we would just do laps and laps and laps, kind of flat track style in the backyard.
Oh wow, that's pretty impressive. And then so from 16 on, did you move to a different bike? How did that happen? Did you go off to college and
Yeah, so I'm I did not. I really kind of took a break from it until maybe I was 19 in college, and my parents had moved half the time to Florida, and they didn't want me to get a real bike or a street bike or
right,
anything.
right,
But when they were down there for 6 months, one time I bought a street bike, and you know that was kind of my re-entry into it, my first big bike. And I just rode street and did college stuff, you
right,
know.
right, right.
And yeah, and then I had another long break away from bikes, and I didn't really get seriously into it until like about 98. I took the MSF class, and I ended up taking it with Ken Condon, and he had been doing a lot of organized sport bike riding on the street.
Okay.
And so I got into that pretty hardcore. We would do these big group rides and kind of ride too fast for public roads. And we did that for a few years. And then our friend Tony Iannarelli was racing at Loudon and had done some racing. And so we went up there and um, I started racing in 99
Wow.
on an old EX500. And then Tony would rent the track one day a year for street guys, to all these guys we used to ride too fast with on the roads. And he would rent the track one day a year. And that's kind of how the track day business started. And I was sort of just a friend of his right from when he started that whole thing.
Right. And so what was racing getting into the race scene like for you back in 98? Because I mean I came in 2013. Honestly, up until like Jesse, as you know, Jesse Fenton, I bought his race bike, his SV 650, and he kind of like he got me hip to you can go racing. I mean, like I saw stuff back in the day too on Wild World of Sports and stuff like that, but growing up in the city, it was like so far removed. Like, and I was into cars, but even like it was so far removed
Yeah.
that like as a regular person, for lack of a better word, you can go racing. So what was that like getting to the track? I mean,
Yeah.
I guess it's easier when you know people, but
Yeah, same thing for me. My family was so far removed from it that I was like, really? You guys race? What is that? So I went up there, and at that time, though, people were racing. It was a lot more kind of homespun. There were a lot of home built bikes being raced.
hmm
Um, really kind of a lot of real rat bikes being raced. So I didn't have a budget per se. So one of the guys who was racing EX500s was like, I got a few parts bikes. We can put one together
right,
for
right,
you. So my first bike, it cost me about $400. It was a parts bin EX500. And it was held together with like strange pieces of perforated metal. And like, I don't know, it was the most bizarre rat bike ever. But it got me out there. Um, and yeah, I started racing, and I had really been on track maybe once or twice before, because track days really weren't a common thing. And
right.
I had done one with Tony, and then yeah, and then it was just like, all right, jump in, and we would go racing, and there was yeah, it was a different world. We would kind of just go faster till we crashed and fix our stuff, pick it up, and try and go faster again. Like that was the method of how we learned. We did a lot of stupid things. Um,
Yeah, I was gonna say,
yeah,
like, did you guys pay attention to body position and were you like, are you just
I
going out there
mean,
just full gas?
Yeah, it was kind of just full gas. I mean, we looked at the best riders and stuff, but there wasn't much structured learning
Right.
because like things like track days, like what I do now, the kind of thing that we provide for riders now, it just wasn't there. It was a real sink or swim scenario, and Penguin School did exist, but we couldn't afford to go to it
Right.
much. So like we did the licensing school, and then we just kind of like couldn't afford instruction after that. I did read a lot of Keith Code's books and
Okay.
his videos, and that was kind of for me, Keith Code's stuff at the time was how I learned. I read his books over and over again. I kind of applied some of his um, theory and learning strategies,
Right.
but that was pretty much all I had. And I was maybe unusual in that I was a little more looking for information. A lot of other people would just
Just
go to the track and go till they bend it, and then fix it and go back out.
um and so now when you started, did you kind of always stayed racing at that point, or did you take any more breaks after that? And did you kind
Yeah,
of
so I did like I raced all full seasons with what was LRRS at
right,
the
right.
time, which is now Nehmer, the series at New Hampshire. And I raced full seasons for about 7 years. So in 2006, I had moved on from EX 500s to 125 Grand Prix bikes, two strokes.
Okay.
And these bikes are weapons. That's probably still one of the best motorcycles I've had the privilege to race and ride. Um, and so at that by that point, I had become an expert, and I won a championship in 2006 on the 125 GP bike.
Okay.
And then right after the season ended, I got in a big car versus motorcycle crash,
Mm-hmm.
and I got pretty hurt. Um, and I couldn't really race the next year. I tried the first round or two, but I just couldn't get comfortable on the bike. I had a back and neck problems, and so I stepped away from it at that time. I also kind of, yeah, I couldn't really justify spending all the money and not being able to ride well and
Right.
comfortably.
Right.
Yeah, so I stepped away. But Tony had retired from racing, and he had started his track day business was more of a thing. He was doing more and more days. So as soon as I was kind of healthy enough, well, I had sold off all my race stuff, but
Oh
as
wow.
soon as I was kind of healthy enough, I bought a KTM 690 SMC Supermoto
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
when they and I got back into the track by doing some instructing with Tony at his days, and he would have, I don't know, a smaller number, but he would have maybe 4 or 5 days a season. So I kind of kept my toe in the water
Right.
for quite a long time, and his business grew, and it became more and more of a thing,
Right.
and more of sort of a school structure. I worked with Ken a lot. I tried to help them. I was a teacher by profession, so I kind of just tried to help them develop curriculum and that kind of thing. And so I was just kind of a part of that for a good 15 or so
Oh
years,
wow.
um,
Wow.
without kind of racing.
Got you. Got you.
Um,
And in that
yeah.
period, even though you were instructed and stuff, did you find that you were also improving as a rider, doing the track days and that?
Oh yeah. So I mean, I finally like stepping away from the racing and doing the instructing. I finally could really put together kind of what I think is some decent a decent approach and technique to learning and improving. So yeah, teaching helped me become a much better rider. By the time I got back to racing, I was definitely a different rider.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Yeah, and for me, I didn't go that route of doing track days. I think I did my first track day in 2019.
Yeah.
So I bought my bike from Jesse, and in 2013 did it the Penguin School and started racing. I did like two rounds in 2013, like 2 rounds in 14, and then 15 on. I started doing the full season, and then I got in a street accident in 2018. And so I got a little decent in 2017 as far as getting quicker and stuff like that. But like the accident set me back like a year and a half. I didn't take time off. I rode until my hand got better, but by that point, my body position was all jacked up and stuff. So I had to spend time sorting that out. So that's when I started going to track days and realized I probably should have been doing track days a lot sooner. So, for folks that are trying to get into motorcycle racing, it sounds like it's more important to get those track days in before you jump on a racetrack because it really save you some time. See.
Yeah, I mean, now there's it's a much easier road to go from, hey, I have a sport bike, I like to go fast, to like, there's a much easier road to go from that place on the street to racing a motorcycle, which is to do some track days. And, all these orgs, including my own, have instruction and structure and sort of help you get there in a different way than I did it, which was to go out and keep going till I crashed and then go out and do it again. Now you can really get some seriously focused guidance, and people show up for their first race weekend now, and they're doing like pretty near expert pace sometimes,
Right.
and that was never a thing. We all started at the very beginning. We sucked when we started,
Right.
and it took years to kind of get good at it. But now people can spend those first few years at track days in a low, non-competitive environment with much more guidance, and they do end up going racing. They're faster, they're safer, they're more experienced. It's really a different thing now than it was
Right.
in '99.
Right.
Jumped in, yeah.
And so, after 15 years of, teaching in the curriculum and stuff like that, what was the thing that got you back to the racetrack?
Well, that's a funny story. I met a woman who became part of Tony's track days as well, and we started dating. And she was a lifelong kind of well, her father had been a racer, a vintage racer,
Right.
and she was racing vintage bikes. And so I was going to the track to support her and her vintage racing, and it really wasn't very long before she convinced me that I should probably go racing too.
Right.
And
And that's interesting because it's usually the other way around. It's usually guys trying to convince the girl to go racing. I mean, it helped that you've been doing all this, so I assume it wasn't a hard thing to convince you to do at that point.
yeah, it wasn't too hard at that point. I mean, my life had changed a lot. Um, and she already had a race program and was bringing it all to the track and everything. So, yes, it seemed like it was just an easy, comfortable kind of thing to do
Right.
at that point. And
Gotcha.
so my second go around, I've probably been at it now again for about 7 or 8 years, and yeah, so it's like a second road racing career for me, and it's been so different. My eyes were way more wide open, and I understood the whole thing
Right.
coming at it the second time. I had my doubts whether I would enjoy it as much because that first go was so crazy because it was just always wild. We never knew what to expect from ourselves or the
Right.
bikes or anything. Now I know much more what to expect, but to be honest, I'm having a lot more fun with it the second go around. It's just it's just a more comfortable time in my life to do it, and although I'm older, but it's just a better fit for my life now.
And do you find that early on did you have the speed that you currently have, and in when you got back on, was that something that surprised you a bit, how quickly you got fast? Because from what I could tell, you were pretty fast early on.
Yeah, so I guess I would say relatively. I came back at on bigger bikes. So I was a lightweight bike guy in my first career, and I came back as a middleweight racer. And so it was not easy. It was not an easy change. I had to change a lot of my approach, especially at Loudon that I knew so well on the little bikes. It took me years, 3 or 4 years, to really kind of eliminate all my little bike technique on the middleweight. Um, but my pace was decent, like you say, but it wasn't, top level competitive. It still was. I always kind of say, talented rider steps into racing. It's going to take 5 years to get be truly an expert near the top level of club racing with NAMR. It's a year. Some people do show up and go quickly right away, but that doesn't make you really an expert racer,
Right.
yet. It really takes some years. And so it was probably a good 3 years before I felt like, yeah, I'm now a really solid sort of near the front expert on the middleweight at Loudon again.
All right. And you mentioned your approach to going from a little bike to a middleweight bike. Can you talk about that a little bit more? And is there? I got to assume there's some change in how you work out. Not even just mention with on track stuff.
Oh yeah, yeah. So sure. I mean, at the time when I first started racing, I was kind of an endurance athlete and trained a lot. Just long distance hiking, trail running, that kind of stuff. But the middleweight bike is definitely. I'm a small guy. It's physical for me, so I've shifted my training quite a bit. And actually, my my wife is also she became a physical trainer, an athletic trainer, and so I go to her gym and yeah, I train both aerobics and kind of free weights.
Okay.
During the off season, I'll focus more on free weights. During the season, I'll focus more on aerobic training. But that changed quite a bit. My riding had to change a lot. I'm still working on changing my riding and my body position and the whole 9 yards. Um, yeah, and riding has changed a bit. What people know about riding has changed, and the
Right.
approach. So a lot more trail breaking now, which at the time, I wasn't probably trail breaking as much as I should have been, but we were just kind of like on the little bikes. It was just all about entry speed, off the brakes, back on the gas as early as possible. Um, you know, I was always on the gas before the apex of every single corner, basically. Never didn't matter what kind of corner it was. I was
Right.
trying to maximize the entry speed. That's a little different now. For the approach for me is much different. Now I understand the different types of corners and the way that they require a different approach on the brakes to get into the corner in the best way, and so that you can maximize your exit as well. So yeah, my riding has changed a lot. The knowledge of riding that's out there has helped me do that. But also the middleweight bike demands that I change too.
Wow. And now, do you find that since you've been doing all the endurance stuff and all that, like the physic, did you have to start doing more on top of what you were doing, or just kind of like okay? Because for me, I ran a marathon in 2014. And after doing that and racing 2015, I'm like, I got to train like a marathon runner to be able to just ride all day and wake up, Monday morning and not be in pain.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think a couple things happen. I mean, as I'm starting to get kind of older, I hit the 50-year-old mark during this time, and my body started changing. I started to need to do a little more strength training for my joint strength and just not get kind of shoulder repetitive stress injuries in my shoulders.
Hmm.
And so just trying to be resilient from crashes and injury and recovery. So I this past winter I especially focused mostly on um, weight training, kind of not heavy weight training, but more weight training than endurance training.
Gotcha.
And it's made a difference for me on the bike. I'm less sore after 3 days, 4 days on the bike. And yeah, especially the middleweight. I mean, for me, throwing the bike back and forth at Loudon, especially, is
Yeah.
is super physical.
Uh,
Um,
that it is. So now let's talk about the classic and the last few years because 2023 was the first year that we had the big purse. It I don't want to say it sounded like it was the local guys versus the pros that came. But what was that like for you? We could talk about this year because this year the weather was a lot better. But what was that like, for you both years competing, at age 50 or close to that with, T Cobbs and Mesa and some of these fast professional riders. What was that like for you? I mean, because for me, it's when you're younger, you think about these things like racing with pros and stuff like that. But to be doing that at 50, I mean, are you pinching yourself, or what's that? What was it like?
Yeah, so at the time, by the end of 2022, like my pace was getting pretty good, and that big purse came around, and I was super excited about the opportunity to race those guys. I decided to like actually build a bike that was a little better than stock, like motor.
Yeah.
So we put together a super sport motor for that year, for that race specifically. I put a lot of training in, um, and I even worked with like a mental coach to work on the sort of mental side of racing. And so I kind of had a lot of eggs in that basket. And when the day came around and it was what happened, the rain, the washout. Um, well, yeah. I mean, first of all, we had that pre-qualifying on Friday night, and I was going pretty good, but I low-sided and broke a finger.
Wow.
And I qualified 19th, and but then the race day came, and it was clearly a washout. And then, but the stress of that race, um, and I was kind of in hell. It was really tough. Like I was stuck in 19th place and I couldn't make any moves because we never finished another lap. It
Right.
was crazy. Every red flag set me back to 19th, no matter what I did. So it was super frustrating. It was mentally and physically draining. Carrie and we were both completely drained after that event.
Right.
We had just put a lot of effort into it, and it was such a challenge. So this year we took it a little easier, and we were just kind of like, we'll just see how it goes.
Right. Right.
And
Right.
yeah, and it didn't go well for me. I got out there on Friday, and in the second race of the weekend, I blew up my motor that I had built for this thing, and I was thinking, well, that's it, it's over. But my garage mates and everything, they're like, well, we can put you on one of our B bikes, and we put all my suspension on Samir's B bike, and
Okay.
I got out there, and I was able to qualify, but I really wasn't able to ride at the pace I needed to. So I was out there in the race. It was awesome to race with those guys. The level was insane as expected. The
Right.
weather was good, the level was insane, and just to kind of ride with those guys was kind of like pinch yourself kind of moment. So I have no regrets about it. I wish that I could have done better and that my bike had stayed together, but that's definitely racing, has these crazy roller coaster up and downs.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, and that was true for me.
Right. And and that's part of racing that we don't really talk about that much, the downside of it, right? Your garage mates or whoever that comes in the night and try to help you get your bike back together to go race again. Sometimes you have to start in pit lane because you just got your bike together and you didn't make the warm start and stuff like that. Um,
Yeah.
are there techniques? Are there things that you've learn to help like kind of deal with that? I know we all have to have short-term memories when negative things happen, but are there stuff like that?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean, the work I did with that mental coach was really good. His program was called Camino Coaching. He's based in the UK, and he works with Moto 2 and Moto 3 riders.
Okay.
Um, and he has this online program, and he definitely helped me, my mental approach, to be able to handle this kind of stuff better. And part of it is to is to really address what you can now, and
Right.
not to really be stressed about what just happened, and not to be too stressed about what you think might happen next, but just to keep focused on what can you do right now. So, when my buddy said, you can ride my bike, I thought to myself, well, I can, but I can't go fast on your stuff. So what do we have to do right now? It's like
Right.
we got to put my suspension on your bike first. Um, and then including my handlebars, everything that I have, my brakes,
Right.
everything that I'm comfortable with. And we went out in qualifying, and his clutch was so different from mine that I couldn't use my brake markers. I couldn't get my pace going. So we came back in after qualifying practice 1, and we changed my clutch into his bike
Oh,
for
wow.
qualifying practice 2. And I went back out and was able to go a little more than a second faster just because of the clutch change. So it was really an exercise in, mental, just being able to stay focused on what you can do now, and not worry about what's going to happen down the road or what already happened.
Yeah,
So
which is very hard because for me, in the beginning, even if there was a thought of rain, I'd be packing up my bike in the trailer
yeah,
some years ago. And it wasn't until 2019 for me, I was in Roeblen and I raced in. It was raining, it was like 45 degrees. And I rode through that. And then after that, it was just kind of like, well, you can ride through anything if you could do this, and that kind of thing. So it does also put you on a different level mentally too when you get through the whatever adversity is in front of you at that moment.
yeah. So exactly, the rain is really one of the things that this mental exercise really helps with. And he really said you can't try and say, well, what if it rains during the race? You can only address what's on the ground right now.
Right.
And so everybody's trying to switch tires based on what they think might happen next. But the one way to but that's super stressful, and you can change tires 20 times because you're second guessing what's
Right.
coming.
Right.
But the mental approach that this guy taught was to put the tires on for what is on the ground right now,
And just
because you don't know what's going to happen 20 minutes from now. So you should, to eliminate the stress, you just deal with right now. And that definitely helps with the whole weather scenario at Loudon. Even this year's classic, it kept sprinkling and we kept getting delays.
right.
And we went out for the race and it was sprinkling. But if you were thinking like, oh, am I on the wrong tires? That's you can't you couldn't be on anything else because the ground wasn't wet right now. So
Right.
you had
Right.
to go, yeah, you had to go with what you know. So really that was kind of a lesson that helped that whole thing be a little less stressful this year than it was last year. That's
Right.
for sure.
Right. And you're looking forward to next year.
Yeah, for sure.
Nice.
I mean, I have well, I did like the Penguin Advanced School before the Classic, and I worked with Eric and Shane, and I have some
Oh.
direction and some things that I really want to continue to improve. I still know that I've got a lot to improve in my riding, and so that's a cool place to be at 53. I don't think I'm done learning and getting faster. So yeah, I am excited to do it again if I
And
can.
going to the class, after I don't know when the last time you did one of the advanced classes, but after coaching and doing all that, you still felt like okay, I could still get tuned up a little bit by going to this class. And was that an easy decision to make to just say, let me go do it?
Yeah, 100%. So, I mean, I'm pretty friendly with Eric. We chatted about it a bit, and when I signed up, he's like, "What are your goals? What are, like kind of questioning like why I signed up." And, it's like, oh, I had a clear goal for myself. I know my weakest part of my lap is my exit drive.
Hmm.
And so I told him that, and he's observed my riding a lot over the years and whatever, and he thought about it, and really thought, he really was able to put his finger on some body position issues that he think
Okay.
would make a difference for me. And then I worked with Shane a bit, and he also put his finger on body position issues. So, there were things clear, I hadn't taken the school in many years,
Right.
and after all this developing my own kind of school with what we call Cyclesmith track days now, um, it was Eric's school has so much information, and I think it overwhelms a lot of people. But for me, I was able to kind of filter out the stuff that I already have fairly well, kind of sorted for myself, and really just zero in on what I consider my current obstacle, my current
Right.
flaw that I need to improve. And he was able to kind of help me focus on it. And so, yeah, it was a really positive experience. I don't think I'm like I was a professional teacher for my whole career, and so I'm like a lifelong learner. I don't think that you can really master anything, and
Right.
especially road racing. It's changing, and you have to change with it. And yeah,
Yes.
so
That's pretty good, man. That's
it
pretty
was a good.
dope. And we got about just about 10 minutes before we wrap up. But let's talk about we've been kind of dancing around Tony's track day and cycles being changed now to Cycle Smith. Let's talk about the track day, the Tony's track day. What's that been all about? And what made you guys take it over? And now I've changed the name, so it looks like you guys probably own it outright now. So what's Tony's track day about? And what has it been like?
Yeah, so that's it. I mean, so Tony's track days developed out of that, like, let's get these fast kids off the street and give them some structure and teach them how to ride, in an environment where you're not going to get hit by a car or hit a guardrail. And so the curriculum they developed was very much based on that kind of street riding, improving your skills for street riding. And I had been a part of that for all those years. Then along came the pandemic, and Tony thought to himself, I don't know if I. There was a big question mark. Are they even going to do track days this
Right.
year and everything? And he kind of said to Carrie and myself, "What do you think? Do you want to buy the business?" And now's probably the time because Carrie had lost her job, so she was available to work at it full time. And one thing Tony realized at some point during the development of the business was it really required some full time attention to make it work, to make it
Right.
succeed,
Right.
to make it really be something you can make a living at. Like, you couldn't really just dabble at it after work. It was too much work for that. So we said, yeah, well, we think we will take it,
Right.
and yeah, and so it kind of happened suddenly, and so that year during the pandemic, we did finally operate as a track day org. They allowed us to do days because it was outside and
Yep.
whatever.
Thank goodness for
Um,
that.
so yeah, so most of the season did happen, and we were sort of so Tony was kind of mentoring us on how to actually operate the business
Okay.
from the back end.
Right.
I had always been part of it as an instructor, but there's a lot that goes on. There's a lot of work behind the scenes, managing relationships with the tracks, ambulance companies, all these things, registering customers, handling all the payment, all these things, the website.
Right.
So we spent a year kind of shadowing in a sense Tony, and then following year we took over kind of operating the business,
Right.
and Tony took a sort of a back seat. And yeah, and this is now our fourth year operating the business, and we went ahead and changed the name this winter to Cyclesmith Track Days, which Cyclesmith has a fun sort of story behind it. Carrie's father, at one point in the 80s, owned a BMW shop, a BMW
Oh.
dealership in New Jersey,
Yeah.
and it was called Cycle Smith. His name was Frank Smith.
Gotcha.
And he just passed away like 4 years ago. And so bringing the name of his business back was just kind of serendipity. It was just sort of a nice way to, yeah, honor him and
Right.
start a new chapter. I mean, he didn't get to see us take this over, but he would have been super into it. So, yeah,
That's pretty
using the
awesome.
name.
And how
Yeah.
can you want to tell us the website and what is the season looking like for folks that would like to go to the track for track days? How many rounds are happening?
Yeah. So it's cyclesmithtd.com.
Okay.
And we have a pretty big calendar. I think we have a total of 23 dates this year.
Oh,
We do mostly 2 and 3 day events.
okay.
Um, and sort of our whole model has become uh, honestly what we recognized when Carrie and I took it over. We looked at the whole thing and we redefined it a little bit because most of our customers by this point are track day people who they they might still ride on the street, but when they're at the track, they have a track dedicated bike. They're not on their street bike anymore.
Right.
They're kind of like they're sort of enthusiast track day riders, which that didn't exist when Tony started. So we kind of redefined and we're really catering to track day enthusiasts.
Okay.
So the street part of the curriculum has sort of been dropped, and we really now teach um, track based strategy for the different types of corners you're going to encounter on racetracks and how to approach them um, for efficiency, speed,
Right. Right.
safety things. So we rewrote the curriculum to be more geared towards track riding specifically. And yeah, and then now it's 3.5 years in, and our ridership has improved greatly. So we feel really good about the direction that we've taken with the classrooms and the one-on-one instruction and those kinds of things. And yeah, like I said, we have about 23 days this year. We're not halfway into the season yet, but we're getting close. We have a lot on the calendar this month. We go to New York Safety Track this weekend,
Hmm.
Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. Um, then we have July 3rd and 4th at Palmer, which is a two-day event in the middle of the week on the holiday there. And immediately after that, we have our first day at Club Motorsports in Tamworth, New Hampshire
Wow.
on July 10th. So that's 3 events in 4 weeks right there. So we're super busy right now. And I'm busy writing a new curriculum for the Tamworth track. We just visited it on Sunday
Wow.
to really kind of learn it for ourselves before we bring our customers up there and offer the classrooms on that. So yeah, it's super busy, but really fun and rewarding. Yeah, we're pinching ourselves that this is now our kind of what we do for work.
Right.
It is a lot of work, but it's so rewarding. Yeah, we get
I
to hang out with cool people all the time, and
right. I can imagine.
yeah, yeah.
So I gotta ask, whatever happened to that girl you started dating? They got you to the track.
Yeah, so Carrie Smith, she's my wife now, and she's kind of the face of Cyclesmith, and yeah, she does a lot of the relationship part of the business,
Right.
with the track and with customers, and I work a lot on the curriculum, the riding program, the staff development, staff management, that kind of stuff. So uh, we feel like we couldn't have. Her background is kind of relationship management for business,
Yeah.
and so we feel like we sort of just I don't know. It was just couldn't have really happened much better. We just are uniquely suited as a couple to run this business, and yeah, we're having a blast doing it.
Awesome, man. I'm glad to hear. And we need folks like you two who put the time in to give us the opportunity to get on a racetrack because even just being around for the last few years, well, since 2013, but really paying attention when I've been traveling up and down, and then seeing organizations change names and stuff like that. It is a lot of work. It's not something that's like anyone can just get up and decide, oh, I'm going to go do a track day or whatever the case may be. It really is. So, And most times you're not getting the pat on the back, right? When you do something great, it's usually when something goes wrong, somebody says something about it. So, kudos to both of you for taking that on, because you know, if not, a lot of us wouldn't have a place to go ride besides the street.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks. Yeah, it is true. A lot of people think they look at us and think, "Oh, you're not really working. You're just having fun." But the amount of work it is phenomenal behind the scenes, and sometimes it feels like, yeah, people don't see or recognize how much goes into it. They think
Right.
that, oh, anybody could do what we do, but really, there's a lot. There's a lot behind the scenes that has to happen, and we're really glad to have gotten the opportunity from Tony to take over what he had already created, and develop it to the next level. Yeah.
Awesome, man. Well, when I grow up, I hope I'm as fast as you are, man. Uh,
Thanks, man. You're getting there.
I'm trying. I'm trying, man. I want to thank you for coming on the show. I assume all your social media stuff is on cyclesmithtd.com. So if anybody that's interested, they can just go right there and then find all your other platforms.
Yeah. Yeah, we have a Facebook group that's pretty active for discussion and resources. We're our model is really a community model. We're not really a competitive organization. We really want to create an environment where we everybody's helping each other to
Right.
learn to
Yep.
ride better and faster. And our Facebook community is pretty helpful if for people getting into it. If you need anything, equipment, leathers, bikes, people will, just ask and people will provide basically.
Aw- Awesome, man. I want to thank you for coming on. My name is Rex45, and it's Paul Duval. Thank you.
Right on. Thanks, Rex.